Karen loved silence, not peace, not harmony, silence, the kind that meant nobody dared challenge her. On Maple Ridge Drive, her word was law. She was the self-appointed queen of the HOA, clipboard glued to her manicured fingers, pearls tight around her neck like a badge of authority. If your trash can sat 2 inches too far left, fine. If your grass dared grow half an inch too tall, violation. If your curtains weren't community-approved beige, expect a letter. But then there was him, the quiet neighbor at the end of the cul-de-sac. He didn't attend meetings, didn't argue, didn't gossip, just nodded politely and closed his door. That silence irritated Karen more than rebellion ever could, so she targeted him. First came the warnings, then the fines, then the public shaming. She stood at the monthly HOA meeting, projecting his house photo onto a screen like evidence in a criminal trial. Non-compliant landscaping, unauthorized exterior modifications, failure to respond. The neighbors shifted uncomfortably as Karen smirked. What she didn't mention? The unauthorized modifications were ADA accessible railings. The landscaping violation, native plants approved by the county. The failure to respond, he'd replied with certified letters she conveniently ignored. When he didn't pay the $4,200 in fines, Karen escalated. The HOA sued him. She expected him to panic, to fold, to apologize. Instead, he showed up to court, calm, organized, carrying a thick leather binder, and when the judge asked if he had anything to say, he stood up and said, "Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to file a counterclaim for $2.3 million." Karen laughed. The judge didn't. Karen's laugh echoed in the courtroom, sharp, arrogant, dismissive. $2.3 million? She scoffed loudly. For what? Hurt feelings? That was her first mistake. The quiet neighbor didn't flinch. He simply opened the binder, tabbed, indexed, meticulously documented. Selective enforcement, he began calmly. Disability discrimination. Retaliatory fines. Defamation during public meetings. Then came the evidence. Emails, board minutes, security footage from meetings, certified mail receipts proving the HOA ignored his responses. But the real blow? A recorded voicemail. Karen's voice, smug, venomous, unfiltered. "I don't care what accommodations he thinks he's entitled to. If we make it uncomfortable enough, he'll move." The courtroom went silent. The judge's expression changed. Karen's attorney stopped smiling. And that's when the quiet neighbor revealed something else. Something Karen never bothered to check before targeting him. He wasn't just a homeowner. He was a civil rights attorney with 20 years of litigation experience, and he had been documenting everything. Not emotionally, strategically. The $2.3 million wasn't random. It included emotional distress, legal fees, ADA violations, reputational damage, and punitive damages for malicious conduct. Karen's confidence cracked for the first time. The HOA board members who once applauded her started whispering because they realized something terrifying. If he wins, the HOA doesn't pay. They do. And before we go further, if you're watching this unfold, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Karen told the board not to worry. "It's intimidation," she whispered during an emergency HOA meeting. "He's bluffing." But the insurance company didn't think so. Within days, the HOA's liability carrier sent a reservation of rights letter. Translation: if the discrimination claim stuck, they might refuse to cover it. That's when the board members stopped backing Karen publicly. Because now it wasn't about pride. It was about their houses, their savings, their retirement funds. The quiet neighbor's legal team filed discovery. Subpoenas flew. Financial records were requested. Internal communications demanded, and buried inside thousands of HOA emails was a thread Karen thought she deleted. Start fining him weekly. If he can't handle the rules, he doesn't belong here. People like that lower property values. 3 sentences. 3 nails in the coffin. At deposition, Karen's confidence evaporated. Under oath, she contradicted her own meeting statements, claimed she couldn't recall approving escalated fines, blamed clerical errors. But the quiet neighbor's attorney, who until now had been composed and almost invisible, slid printed exhibits across the table, signed by Karen, dated, initialed. The board watched the transcripts in disbelief. Then came the judge's preliminary ruling. The discrimination claim would proceed to trial. Punitive damages would remain on the table. Settlement talks were recommended. Karen stormed out of the courthouse, mascara slightly smudged, refusing to answer reporters' questions. For the first time in years, Maple Ridge Drive was quiet. Not because Karen demanded it, because nobody trusted her anymore. Karen refused to settle. It's the principle, she insisted, but it was never about principle. It was about control. The HOA's emergency vote happened without her. 3 board members resigned, 2 voted to remove her as president. The same neighbors who once applauded her enforcement now avoided eye contact in the grocery store. Then came mediation. The quiet neighbor didn't look angry, he looked prepared. Again, his attorneys presented projected trial exposure, $2.3 million in damages, plus potential personal liability if willful discrimination was proven. The HOA's insurance company folded first. They agreed to a substantial settlement to avoid trial, but with one condition. Karen would not be covered for intentional misconduct. Translation? If this went to verdict, she could lose everything. Her lawyer leaned in and whispered the word she hated most: settle. Weeks later, a confidential agreement was signed. The HOA paid a 7-figure sum. Mandatory policy reforms were implemented. ADA compliance training became required. And Karen? Removed. Publicly. A resignation letter posted on the community bulletin board. No pearls. No applause. No authority. The quiet neighbor didn't celebrate. He renovated his porch railings, this time with full HOA approval, and quietly donated part of the settlement to a disability rights nonprofit. Power abused became power corrected. And if this story opened your eyes, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, because sometimes the quietest neighbor is the one you should never underestimate.